Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Seventh Man podcast. I'm Will Beverina. I run Dimer2K.com and write about the NBA 2K League.
And I am Josiah Cohen, and I write for Dimer2K.com, as well as TSN, also generally about the NBA 2K League, but also a little bit of Overwatch thrown in there for TSN.
We're back for episode 14. You can check out all of our previous episodes on our YouTube channel. Just search for the Seventh Man podcast. And we have about half of our episodes at this point on both iTunes and Podbean. As always, want to thank everyone who has listened to any of our episodes so far. Support is always appreciated. Now, it's been a while since we've done this, Josiah. About a couple months, maybe, since our last podcast.
I'm rusty. I'm definitely rusty.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to really we're jumping back into the deep end here. But usually we come on here and we discuss the most recent happenings in the league. And there's surely been a lot happening this off season, but we're actually going to switch it up today. So Josiah and I have each come up with 3 questions and or hypotheticals, and we're each going to answer them. Now, we both know all the questions so that we had time to think about our answers, but we don't know each other's answers. So I'm very excited to hear what Josiah has to say.
Me too. I'm also excited to hear what I have to say because I had some awesome Madden victories last night, some really crazy wins, but it left me with little time to think about these questions. But still confident that can offer up something good to complement whatever Will's going to say.
Wow, no work ethic whatsoever.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Josiah, will you do the honors of asking the first question?
I will ask the first question. Am I asking? Yeah, I'm asking one of my questions. Okay, so I miss trying to be a tactician and looking at sort of the sets and plays that teams run. So my first question is going to relate to that. What sort of offense do you think will work in the NBA 2K League next season?
So I think the obvious answer is that pick and roll is going to dominate. I'm going to come out and say it right now. The 5-out is dead for season 2. It's
DED dead.
It's done. You may see some teams run a couple plays out of a 5-out set. You may see some teams try it for a game or two, but no team in season 2 is actually going to come out every game and try to base their offensive identity around the 5-out. It's done. Just looking at these small forward archetypes, you can see that the league saw. I think what happened is they saw what was going on with the shot creating slasher, and they saw that from a fan perspective, the 5-out isn't the most exciting thing to watch. So I think what they did is they made sure that at the small forward position, there would be no powerhouse offensive archetypes at small forward. And you can see it here. Every single build at the small forward position has defending in it. Now, if you were to try a 5-out, maybe that two-way shot creator or the two-way point forward would be what you would try. Those would just be my guesses, but it's going to be incredibly hard, I think, to try and run a 5-out in season 2. So what do? I think the pick and roll, which has been dominating the ProAm meta, is going to be the offense that we're going to see. And, teams may mix some things in here and there, but I also think the guards are going to be a lot more important in season 2 than in season 1. And guards were already pretty dang important in season 1. But with the way that the retail version of 2K19 has been, your centers aren't the mashers that they were in 2K18. There's no more just forcing it into a dead zone and your center just pump fakes a couple times and then gets a standing dunk animation on 2 players. There's no more of that. So it's mostly been your centers. They need to be able to set the pick and roll. They need to be able to run the pick and roll, defend it, and they need to be able to rebound. Now, they may change some things in the league build compared to the retail version of 2K19, obviously, but I think the guards are you're going to run your offense around your guards, try to get them as many open looks as possible, Josiah.
That's quite the soliloquy to follow up. But one thing that I thought about while you were making some good points there was the Raptors offense from their really hot stretch late in season one, where I think they were unparalleled in terms of the balance that they had. On the one hand, they had Kenny running the shot creating slasher, but they were also able to balance that out with TS Josh doing a little secondary ball handling. And they really struck a good balance until they kind of slowed down at the end and by the time the playoffs hit. But I think point guard is going to be more important in the league than it is in ProAm currently. But I think the shooting guard will be far more important in the league than it was last season. A lot of teams might have some great secondary ball handlers, guys who weren't really so efficient at point guard, but now are all of a sudden going to be able to really contribute and help a team balance out its offense. I definitely think pick and roll is probably going to be the primary thing, but certainly will avoid the ugly paint mashing and 5 out. But don't sleep on plays. Don't ever sleep on plays. You imagine a full season for Pacers gaming where they have guys, where they want them, where they don't have to worry about changing their identity and integrity. Those plays are going to be nasty with a full season and a full off season and a full, lead up to the season, preseason, I guess, period of work. Those don't sleep on plays. Never sleep on plays.
Yeah, I think season 2 is going to open up a lot more. I think teams are going to have to be more creative and run more plays than they had to do in season 1. So I think it's going to be exciting. My question, Josiah, is since we're talking about offense, why don't we talk about defense a bit? Will we see the double lock meta from ProAm in the league build?
I don't think it'll be as prevalent because, as I said, balance is superior to basically anything on offense. That's going to be hard, very hard to find with a double lock meta, as it were. And if you like, paint mashing is not possible. You're not going to have two guys bang down low and be able to score consistently in that way. But at the same time, can't forget about shooting. That's still very important. Basically every game, every single game, essentially, almost, I think. It may have been every game. But everyone was using a pure sharp last season, and there's a reason for that. You need shooting. You need people to space the floor. In the pick and roll, in a 5 out, with plays, you need someone to space the floor. So I think the importance of shooting will be sufficient enough to preclude any real use of a double lock.
Yeah, so the double lock is possible because there are lockdown defender archetypes at both small forward and shooting guard. But I agree with you in that the reason that double locks are run in ProAm is because they have that silver corner specialist badge, which means they can shoot from corner threes. And you won't be losing as much offense in ProAm as you would be losing in the league build. So I agree with you in that I think teams are just going to run that lockdown defender at small forward, and you're going to see, the pure sharp or maybe even the sharpshooting shot creator, which would open up a little bit more. You're a fan of guys like Seam from the Mavs in season 1 who were able to not just be a cone in the corner, but were able to move around the floor and keep their defender guessing. So maybe we'll see that sharpshooting shot creator, but Yeah, it's hard to imagine a team running out with two lockdowns, especially with how much harder shooting is on the league build and
Yeah.
giving up that much offense.
I really want to jump in there too. Yeah, really support what you said. You know, my anti-mimetic speech left out the point that yes, you're not going to have the same level of badges in the league that you have in Pro-Am. Right? Last year, they basically knocked everything down a peg or two,
Right.
and there's no reason to expect that necessarily changes. Um, and right, guys who can put the ball on the floor from the shooting guard are so important, and that's why the Pacers kept Swizzard. Swizzard was, if not the best, among the top three shooting guards last season because not only does he shoot extremely well and efficiently, but he's able to put the ball on the floor. He's a smart player who makes good decisions, and that's just going to be furthered in season two by the players that the Pacers have around him and by what will work for them.
Yeah. So I think we're in agreement on that one then. Just hard to imagine two locks being a meta. Defense is a lot better in 2K19 for sure than it was in 2K18, but even then, there's diminishing returns for sure with the second lock. What's your next question, Josiah?
Um, Next question, I suppose. How much should we read into pro-am performance? Right, we have this phenomenal dichotomy between pro-am and league. How much should we read into the former?
So I think you can read a little bit into the numbers when you're talking about the top competitive pro-am players against other top competitive pro-am players. Sure, you can read into the numbers a bit, but I think mostly what you're looking at in pro-am is you're trying to discern a skill set that a player has. You can see that, a center is able to set good screens and he knows how to position for rebounds and he knows how to defend the pick and roll, things like that, which I think teams will be more concerned with when watching pro-am. Um, and also, you want to look at things like how is a player communicating? Are they getting down on their team, yelling at their team? How do they react to a loss? How do they react to a win? Things like that. So, I guess to answer your question, I wouldn't be looking at how many points a player is scoring in pro-am. I mean, it's nice if a player is going off for 30 in a night against another top player in pro-am, but with how the league build is so different from pro-am, it's almost like playing two different games. And we saw some guys who were pro-am superstars but didn't quite live up to that in the league build in season one. And we saw guys who performed who weren't big pro-am names, but they performed in the combine and they performed in the league. So I think that trend is going to stay. I think you just look at a player's skill sets, you look at their communication, their attitude, things like that, and you go from there and judge their actual in-game performance and stick skills mostly in the combine.
We need to stop agreeing with each other on these sort of things. Um, but I agree. You, you, I'm I suppose my own particular background, as it pertains to this, is makes things a bit different. Different since my point of ingress was really the league, so I am not really inclined to read too much into prom. I appreciate that the league has very good metrics behind their decision making process, and that's important. And I think that you got to perform in the league because the league is what matters. That's what matters in terms of gameplay. That's what matters in terms of real world economics. And I'm not going to read too much into people playing in their rooms on their consoles at whatever hour suits them. Um, I might be a good pickup basketball player, but that doesn't mean much against professional or semi-professional players. Um, that's not to say that the gap between pro-am and the league is as great, obviously, as the gap between pickup basketball players and professional basketball players. But I think the metaphor on the whole applies. Um, the league is what counts. I just keep reiterating that because that's what really stands out to me as the important difference between Pro-Am and the league.
Now, I guess this isn't all to say that Pro-Am isn't important at all. It's good to play as many good players as you can so that you can become better yourself. But the league is what matters in the end. But Pro-Am can help you get better in the league. So it's not completely useless. Uh, Josiah, outside of stick skill, what is one attribute you'd want all 6 of your players to have in the league?
All right, now's my time to be a cynical, cranky commentator
Oh.
or pundit. Don't be an idiot.
Ooh.
Don't be an idiot. This is not a targeted remark at anyone at any individual, at any subset of individuals, at the Twitter community as a whole. This is not a comment at anyone. Um, to use specific examples to start off with, my personal preference, which is not to say that, right, it's not to say that you can't win, with this, right? Because you certainly can. But to me, I, I want to look back if I'm considering drafting a player. I want to look back at their Twitter history, and I want to see them never trolling someone. Don't maybe friends is different. It's hard to it's hard to tell online, but don't be purposely incredibly annoying, and don't there's a sense of authenticity that I would like my players to have, if I were drafting. There's a sense of authenticity and commitment and a level of seriousness that I want to see out of my players. And again, it's tough to say. It's tough to see that so much online, but this is an idealistic question, so I'll give an idealistic answer.
Okay. Can you expand on that? What you mean by authenticity? Because I'm interested in that.
Right, and this applies for me in real life as well. I want to see one, who's not, if the game seems out of hand, if a Pro-Am game seems out of hand by the third quarter, I want someone who's still going to play, if not because they think they can win, but perhaps one of their teammates is still, like, okay, we can win this, and someone who's going to take that serious. Obviously, I want that person to still think, oh, we have a chance to come back. But don't just mess around and don't start, doing something. Don't go into automatic, and present yourself in a way that shows that you're serious about the league and that you understand the ramifications of your actions, and that things have consequences, and that your actions don't just affect yourself, but what you do has an impact on other people. And if you take into mind how your actions affect other people, then you start thinking about that, you start thinking about the long game, and you do things for a positive impact. And that's what I'm looking for.
A weighty answer from Mr. Josiah Cohen. Important for sure, though. If I'm looking for something, though, the one thing I'm looking for is composure. Can you perform on the stage in the lights? You mentioned earlier in the last question about you're not as interested in it doesn't matter to you as much if a guy can perform, in the comfort of their own home at 1 a.m. in the morning, playing Pro-Am. I'm the same way. I'm interested to see, can you perform sitting in that chair with the other team yelling at you in your face, talking trash? And we've seen some people come out and say that they know some players could not handle that pressure in season 1. And that's something you can easily tell from body language. You can look someone in the eye and tell that they are not comfortable in their current situation. So I am looking for the most composed players in the league. Now, that's pretty hard to do to assemble a team where all 6 players have that kind of composure. And that's something that you can only gather from someone who has been in the league for at least one season. So it's not easy to do by any means. But if I could assemble a team where everyone had the composure to go out there every single week and perform while the lights are on them, and thousands of people are watching them on Twitch, and they know that if they mess up, thousands of people are going to be flaming them in the Twitch chat and on Twitter, then those are the kinds of guys I want on my team.
Did you see that? Was it a Blazer 5 video particularly? I think with some of the best sound bites from Mama and Walnut up on the
I did
stage.
not.
That's some creative stuff. Oh, you got to find that. You got to find that. Very, very good video. Great content by then. But yeah, I agree. As per the usual, I suppose. But definitely important to be able to be up there. Sometimes it's because once you have in mind that this is important, then if you have Mel East across you, or the entire Heat Check Gaming team screaming at you for a missed shot or a turnover, how do you react to that? Definitely important.
What is your final question, Josiah?
My final question. So this is again a little bit bigger picture. What can franchises do to optimally allocate the resources that they put into 2K?
So I think the best thing you can do is have multiple people who specialize in different things. And what I mean by that is I want a guy who can handle the esports side of things. And I want a person who can handle the 2K side of things. And some teams do this differently. Some teams have a person do all of those things, and some teams have those responsibilities divvied out among a certain people. But if I can't get, like, say, a Cody Parent who seems to be, I don't know what behind the scenes things are going on in Pacers gaming, but he seems to be doing a lot of those things. Adam Rubin with the Pistons seems to be pretty involved on both the 2K side of things and the esports side of things. Anthony Morocco for the Cavs. I would prefer to have, like I said, the esports person and the 2K person. Let those people just focus on what they do best. I don't want my 2K guy to be distracted by, having to find sponsorships and things like that. I want them to be focused on only coaching the players, only, running the practice schedules, things like that.
Yeah, I think you're going to see more of that in season 2. Some teams already are at that point. Some teams not as much so, but I think we will get there. For me, I think even stepping back, don't forget about putting resources into 2K, because it is, I think, a sufficiently proportional endeavor as to warrant further resources. Because if you put in money, you will get an improved return. If you don't have much of a budget for 2K operations, then you're not going to have as many people watching gameplay. You're not going to have as many people scouting. You're not going to have as many people, pursuing corporate partnerships. So it's important to actually put resources in, because I think at the end of the day, and as does the NBA, that this is ultimately a lucrative endeavor. And so the more resources you can put in now, and the better framework and structure and foundation you can develop for your organization, the better off you'll be. In terms of actual allocation, I think there are a couple points especially worth putting resources into. Content, very important, because you build your team brand that way. Way back in the day, I theorized Jerry Westmandering, a take on gerrymandering. Basically, how do you divvy up fan bases for the NBA 2K League, and that's still very much an ongoing competition. And the better content you can put out, potentially the more giveaways you can do, the better off you'll be in that regard. As well, you have to back that up with scouting. People are still going to back winners. And how do you build a winner? You have to scout and figure out who the best players are and how to best use them. So those are two areas of organizational output that are very important. And the allocation thereof is in personnel. And so I agree with you in that it's good to have a diverse group of people doing particular things. Adam Smith, I think, agrees with you as well, which is always a good confirmation to have. But for example, a team like the Cavs, picking a random team, they have great people working on their corporate side of things. Helena, for example, Anthony is very involved with that as well. Anthony was also involved with 2K, but his job sort of as lead esports person and executive synthesizing various options and making a lot of decisions, that will be easier, and his job will take on more of a real synthesis. I don't know. No. It's too early. Right, his role will become more of what it's expected to be if he has the different people under him who can do their specific jobs, thus making his job easier. So, do they try and go out and hire a coach? Not impossible. Far from impossible, I would say. And that this way, it's about the personnel that you have to have good personnel. Obviously, that's an easy axiom to have. But the more various personnel you can have, as you're saying, but even beyond that, even someone to do just straight out analytics, someone to just sit there and watch, ProAm and offer scouting analysis to the head coach, someone to be head coach and manage the team and come up with plays and set practice times. The more personnel to whom you can allocate resources, I think the better.
Yeah. Also, towards that end of having multiple people, I think when you have esports people who are behind the scenes, they can also gain some 2K knowledge. And I think it's better when you have multiple people who can give their input on certain players and certain decisions and lineups and things like that. We see it in the NBA all the time where the hybrid head coach slash president of basketball operations never works out because you need multiple people who see things from different perspectives and are able to give that input, which I think leads to better results. My final question, Josiah, if you were running a team and wanted to hire a head coach, what is the one question you would ask every head coach candidate in an interview?
I would certainly grill all my head coaching candidates. I would, make sure that they knew everything about the league. I would make sure, to see, how much expertise they had in basketball and 2K. But the one question I would ask, which sort of mirrors the single attribute you'd want in your players, when the going gets tough, when a certain thing hits the fan, as it were, because it will. I don't think there's any team that can claim to have gone through the season without a single crisis, however big or small. When the going gets tough, if you lose a couple games, if you get destroyed in the opening round of, the tip-off, let's say, if you get destroyed, you lose by 30 points. How do you respond to that? How do you manage that? And what do you do? What do you do in that situation?
Yeah, it's pretty important. We talked about the players having that kind of composure. It matters a lot for the coach too, because you got to be the guy that your players have to rally around if the going gets tough. Now, you mentioned, Josiah, you want your head coach to have league knowledge. I agree, which is why I would ask every head coach candidate. This would be like my first question. I'd ask them, "What are your thoughts on authentic Africans scoring 84 points against the 76ers?" Now,
Oh, I know where this is coming from.
now, if if that person says anything about the 76ers needed to bait more, they needed to shade, they needed to play help defense.
Will's hanging up
If
the phone.
if they were a player and they wouldn't watch their teammate give up that many, they wouldn't watch someone on the other team score that many points. I'm putting their resume in the shredder right in their face on Skype. Interview's done. It's over with. I'm so tired. People have been saying, "Oh, Feast can't play defense." Stop. You're exposing yourself as someone who did not watch the league, who is unaware of the context surrounding why Authentic African scored 84 points. You're just completely clueless about the league. And I tweeted about this earlier this week that league knowledge is now essential to having whoever is part of your front office, part of your personnel. League knowledge is essential. It's fine to have. It's good, obviously, to have 2K knowledge, and it's fine to have ProAm knowledge. But I need people with league knowledge. I need people who were able to identify the mistakes that teams, that coaches made in season one, and are able to apply that to their philosophy for season two. So if you have absolutely no clue why Authentic African scored 84 points, and you think the solution is that the 76ers should have quote unquote baited more, then we're done here. We're absolutely done. I can't have someone like that coaching my players. So
Yeah, I could not agree more about league knowledge being essential. I'm an absolute league junkie. If you send me anything league related, I will watch it. I will read it. I will think about it, and I want whoever's going to be in charge to be doing the exact same thing. I think you explained, why it's important. Note to potential coaches for way down the line when Will is a GM. Just say that Feast did an amazing job. You would have traded for him in a heartbeat, and bam, you got the job. But yeah, league knowledge is so important. And also, to go back to the theme of no, you know what? I'm not even gonna say it because that wasn't targeted at anyone. But it's important to know. Let's take a random example. It's good to know who the championship winning point guard of Knicks Gaming was. This is a good and advisable thing if you want to be in the league as a player or as a coach or as, frankly, a videographer for any team. Generally knowing who the championship winning point guard of Knicks Gaming is, I will support your learning on that front. Because, yeah, maybe that should be my first question. Maybe I'll just start that off. Maybe that would be my first question
what
to any potential applicant.
What intel do you have?
Who played point guard? Who played point guard? Yeah. Did you do any intel? Who played point guard for Knicks Gaming? Do you have maybe any intel on him?
Yeah.
Also, here's a good one. To take another random example to make sure people are sort of following, various league related things. I would say, if Kuda played, I don't know, I Am Adam the First, to take a random example, who would win? And if someone gives me a brilliant 3-minute explanation filled with tactical subtleties and analyses of the various metas of the point guard position, I will laugh at them and I will tell them good luck and hang up immediately.
Yep.
There's my mini rant.
Yeah.
Again, not influenced by anything that may have happened in the ProAm/Twitter sphere in recent days.
I actually came up with this question and my own answer before what you're referring to happened, by the way. And then what you're referring to did happen and inspired my tweet earlier this week. So there you go.
It was entertaining. It was an entertaining process.
It was
a very entertaining process.
interesting.
Very interesting. It's good to have interesting content.
Eye-opening, I would say.
Definitely eye-opening content.
Very revealing.
And you know where you can get eye-opening and entertaining content?
Where's that, Josiah?
Dimer2k.com.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Best site for NBA 2K League news and knowledge. Find out who the point guard of Knicks Gaming is. Find out if Authentic African's performance against Feast was an anomaly, or the usual, or how Feast reacted to it. And I also hear Dimer has been hosting a lot of league content on their Twitch channel.
That's very true. It has been. You should check that out. Twitch.tv/Dimer2K.
Yeah. I'm trying to find your tweet from a couple days ago. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
If you're listening right now, drop a comment and tell us why Authentic African scored 84 points. And if I like your answer, then I'll consider you when I'm a GM in a few years for my head coaching position. So
it's a pretty good offer.
Yeah.
Maybe I should do that.
If you have no idea and you fail miserably, then you're off the list. Sorry.
It's all right. You can still do some mock drafts for the community, though.
All right. That's those were all of our questions. So I guess we're done here. Josiah, we've already teased it a little bit, but tell the people, where can they find you and all of your wonderful content?
You can find me, gasp, on Twitter. Trying not to troll, though admittedly sometimes. At Josiah Cohen 13. You can find me on dimer2k.com or at tsn.ca.
And you can find me on Twitter at Will Beverina, Beverina. You can find some of my stuff on dimer2k.com. Not as much recently, but if you want to read, if you're trying to gain some league knowledge and this conversation we've just had has opened your eyes, you can check out our Seasons in Review, where we go pretty in depth into what happened with every single team in the league in Season 1 and get some of that precious intel that you seek. And I helped write some of those, so it was fun.
No, not only help, you did write.
Yeah, I in fact did write some of those.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
It was fun. So yeah, check those out. And just follow us at Dimer2K, where you will see every article that goes on the site posted on there. And check out our Twitch, which we've just set up. It was actually Josiah's idea to set up the Twitch. So pretty good one, I think.
Also clever to say that on this podcast, where fewer people will hear it than had you tweeted it out. So good, smart thinking.
That's very true. Yeah, marketing mastermind.
Brilliant. GM potential right there.
I think we're done here. So thanks for listening, everybody. If you stuck it out with us for the entire, we're at 40 minutes right now. If you stuck it out with us for the entire podcast, we really appreciate it. Give us some feedback. Let us know what we can do better. I don't know what the plan is with the podcast for the rest of the off season, but hoping to. We should probably do this at least semi-regularly, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah. So
Combine soon. So
yeah, we'll be back. So whenever we are back, we will see you then. Thanks, everyone.